Hey there. So, for this Subscriber Sunday, I want to talk about a study involving incarcerated men that murdered their wives. We often think of domestic homicide as a crime of passion or an instance of somebody just snapping. But researchers have documented a specific set of tactics that happen long before a life is ever taken. I'm sharing this today not just because I read this article in this study that I'm about to talk to you about. I lived every single point of it for 15 years. So, a 2025 study was conducted in which 62 men were interviewed across 9 countries. Every one of those men had murdered their female partner. So, what can a bunch of incarcerated men who murdered their wives tell us about the biggest lethality indicators in relationships? It turns out we're getting everything wrong. So, researchers have been doing something that most people don't know about. They've been going into prisons and interviewing some men who had killed their partners, asking them what had happened, how it happened, what they did, and how they kept anyone from stopping it. The researchers were looking for patterns. They were looking for what these men did in real time in the months and years before the killing, and 7 tactics showed up over and over. Number one, they isolated her from her people, her friends, her family. Number two, they gaslit her about her own reality. Number three, they restricted her ability to work. Number four, they vilified her to anyone outside of the relationship. Number five, they built alliances with other men who would back their story. And number six, they controlled her body, what she ate, how she dressed, whether she could leave the house. And number seven, they controlled her access to healthcare. So think about that list. How many of those involved any physical acts of hitting her? Zero. These are the documented tactics that men used in the months and years before they murdered their partners. And every one of them is nonviolent. Every single one of them from the outside sounds just like a really bad relationship, not a deadly one. A second researcher, David Adams, he did his own set of prison interviews, men in the US who killed their wives. And he asked them what kind of men that they thought they were. The most common type that emerged is what he called possessively jealous, not impulsive, not mentally ill, not that they just snapped, possessive. These men believed that she was theirs, in their own words. So the killers told us what to look for. The patterns are documented. The early warnings are there. Men commit about 90% of homicides. Men commit the overwhelmingly majority of rapes and sexual assault against women, against other men, and children. Around 85 to 90% of child sexual abuse, those offenders are male. Over 95% of mass shooters are men. Men commit the majority of violent crime across the world. Not always a man, but somehow always a man. And I know I hear it all the time. Oh, you hate men because of one bad man. No, I hate abusive men, controlling men, insecure men, dismissive men, men who think that accountability is an attack, men who gaslight, cheating men, lying men, manipulative men. I do believe that there are good men out there. I'm just not going to ignore bad behavior ever again. We often hear people say about abusers, so, but he's such a nice guy. He never did anything wrong to me. I never seen him do anything bad. I need you to understand that being a nice guy to the neighbors, the coworkers, the friends, it's actually a critical requirement for a domestic killer. The illusion of a nice guy. If everyone knew who he was, who he actually was, he can't isolate you then. He needs those alliances. He needs them so that way he can make you look crazy. So that way, when you finally scream for help, no one moves, and they really don't. The research conducted in that study that I just described, it's a literal checklist for my last 15 years. He isolated me, he gaslit my reality, he vilified me to everyone so that I had no support system. And then the violence arrived. Someone once asked me what it was like to be in an abusive relationship with a narcissist. Imagine drowning and then being saved. And then you realize that the same hands that saved you were the same ones that were holding you under the water, watching you fight for air, convincing you that it was your fault that you couldn't breathe. A narcissist's playbook is to shower you with love, sell you a future that never comes, isolate and control you, break you down piece by piece, flip the script, convince everyone that you are unstable, and then walk around telling everyone that they gave all that they had, gave you all that they had. For 15 years, and since I left, he's used these non physical tools to erode my foundation and my confidence so that when the physical violence that he inflicted occurred, I was already destabilized and continue to be destabilized. All of those tactics are precursors. In my case, once the control was established, that's when the hitting started. That paired with financial, emotional, and verbal abuse was his way of piling on until it reached the ultimate lethality indicator, strangulation. It started with the mental and emotional erosion, which was sometimes worse than the hitting. It has caused literal brain damage and irreparable damage to every part of me. Then it turned into hitting. Then it turned into strangling, that classic escalation from control to lethality. Statistics tell us that if a partner strangles you once, the likelihood of them killing you increases to 750%. And he strangled me a lot of times. By the time that he had started openly talking about my death, he wasn't just angry or just venting. He literally talked about taking me down a dirt road and having me shot in the head, collecting life insurance money. He told me many scenarios about me being dead and coming home from work and calling the police that he found my dead body, that I must have committed suicide because I'm so mentally unstable. He was telegraphing his intention. He was following the exact pattern identified in that study. And just like those researchers found out, he wasn't just impulsive, he was possessive. He believed my life was his property. And he said so often. All of us girls, including the two that had died prior to me, he said we were all his property, his possession. We belonged to him. And I think that in his brain, somehow, by dying is his ultimate way of keeping us. We're his forever. I am only here today because I realized that the man that all of our mutual friends and his family that enabled all of it, they didn't exist in my house, in any of our homes, ever in 15 years. I had to choose to save my own life because he had already decided that it was his to take. And to my friends that still talk to him and support him, yet say you're my friends, are friends with me, you aren't being neutral. You support a man who strangles his wife and threatens to murder his wife. You are openly participating in the vilification. You are byproduct participating in the tactics that he used to keep me trapped. You are the alliances that the study talks about. And I don't know why you're friends with me. Point blank. I don't know if I'm a source of entertainment for you. Um, you siphon my energy. I don't know what it is, why it is that you are friends with me when you are his friend. It is not possible. So just dismiss yourself from my life, please. I'm sharing all of this because we have to stop looking for just bruises to validate domestic violence. The patterns are documented. And we have to resort to things like videotaping in secret because when we just say these things are happening, you don't believe us. Because we stay with them, you don't believe us. The patterns are documented. The killers told us what they did before they pulled the trigger. I survived the tactic checklist, but a lot of women don't. If you see these tactics in your or someone you know's life, believe the science, believe the research, and believe your intuition. If you see these patterns, please believe and please understand that they are not just red flags. They are indicators of an intended ending. If you want to know more about my domestic violence abuse story, you can go in the link in my bio to break the silence in my DV story. You can follow on YouTube and on TikTok to learn and see more. And I have videos of the last year of our marriage, the actual abuse. If you have any questions or you want to talk about this more, let's talk about it in the comments.